Hey, good morning. It's Vaughan at westcoastbellpottery.ca in Nova Scotia, Canada. It's July 25th. I can't believe it. That's way over a month into summer now, and the season has been doing great. Really busy this year. We've had some guests as well, and that was fun. But basically, I wanted to replace some of my inventory, but I haven't had much time to get on the wheel, so I'm going to make some tiny little glasses that people can carry in their suitcases or their carry-on luggage on planes, because that's most of the people these days. For the next month and a half, 2 months, it's all visitors. Bubble wrap is great, but you need something to stuff into small, tiny spaces because the airlines charge so much for baggage these days. So little glasses are a really good seller, and they can be in many different shapes and sizes. So this is my most popular little glass, and this, it's just very small after it's fired, and it's very easy to throw. Your hand is obviously a bit big for that shape, so there are a few tricks involved here. So let's get this guy off, and then we'll start another one. When I take them off, I just let the wheel go a little slow, and it pulls right off. Okay. So leave that little bit of clay on the wheel, it helps the next piece to stick, but just dry it out. These are very small pieces of clay, probably 175 grams, so just a little bit less than half a pound. And centering, if you're a beginner, watch my beginning videos. I just did 10 of them for getting started. So, but just to repeat, you've got to press really hard, get your clay spinning pretty fast, and move it up, move it down, just around a little bit, just to kind of get rid of any little inconsistencies or air bubbles. They'll pop right out if you take it up and then squash it down. And then when you feel like you got a good consistent piece of clay, you go to center it just by pressing evenly top and bottom. I have an entire video of 10 episodes on beginning pottery all the way through to selling it, and that will be completed this coming weekend when I publish the last one. Find the center point, push down, don't go too far, leave about a centimeter from the bottom. Pull it up, open a little bit there. Use your middle finger to compress from the outer edge to the center, just to make sure you don't get any of the less cracks. If you felt a weakness here, like a rippling, then you should actually push your finger to the outside again and push back into the center and try and get rid of that rippling thing. So it should feel like it's a very dense piece of clay in the center. Two fingers at an angle of 45 degrees just about, and then press with the outside fingers and move your clay up. At one revolution, you should be 2 fingers higher each time, and then let go slowly. So I don't count revolutions, it's instinct for me, but you should be able to try and count, and then sort of start the pull and try and be 1 finger width or 2 finger widths up higher every time you get a revolution. And that way you stay on the wet slippery spot. Put your finger on the top, so just push it back down so it's even at the top. Water both in and out. 2 fingers on the inside. I press with the outside fingers at the bottom there and start coming up again. Put a little pressure back from the inside fingers this time to open it up. Don't get too wide. And let go slowly. Put your finger on the top just to flatten it. You might get slightly wider on one side if it was a little uneven, but you're basically going to have a nice flat rim for trimming on. Then use this rib here. I usually put a line in the bottom so the wire spins through easy, and then I put a line with the other end of the rib at the bottom to create this little pedestal at the bottom of the piece. And then dribble some water in just for a bit of slipperiness, and you don't have to reach to the bottom. Use the metal rib tool, which you find in almost every tool pack you buy for pottery, probably all available on Amazon, and just let go slowly. And then just make sure there's no water left on there. And then I've cut my sponge down to half a sponge to get into narrow pieces, and I just use a rubber band to tie it on there. And just get the water out. Usually you have to go back a second time just to make sure. Pull it up so that it's even all the way up. Roll it over the rim. This is a really smooth porcelain style clay, so there's no grit in it to actually bring to the top of the piece. If you use gritty clays, you're rubbing away the smoother clay when you do that, leaving the grit, which is why I don't bother to use a leather on smooth clays. And then just kind of pull through and let go slowly. It'll just kind of stop the spinning as soon as you feel it release. And then 2 fingers underneath, and you got a nice little drinking vase. I make these sometimes with 1/4 pound. This is over 1/4 pound. They're kind of shop glasses when you're making with that small piece of clay. So let's make a different shape. This is the size of the clay. Round off your bottom a little bit so it's no air going to get trapped in. Bang it down. Centering is identical again. Just kind of move it flat, move it tall, changing the pressure from top to side will make it change its shape. And if you don't see it moving like that fast, you're not pressing hard enough. And then when you've got it consistent, just go for that center point and let go slowly. I just had the visit from Tammy. I think she was from Alberta. And she and her whole family just visited here, and she got to meet the seagull that you just heard. There we go. Yeah, we had quite a bit of fun. She was a nice lady. So I'm just going to do a cylinder this time. And that's about, it could be a little taller because there's a little thickness of the clay there, but I'm making small drinking glasses, remember, that people can stuff in a pocket or even a tiny little carry-on bag. Dribble some water down the center. I'm using my length of my middle finger because that's the longest finger. I put the metal tool on the outside, pull my middle finger up opposite the metal tool edge, and then basically you can do anything you want with the top. We could flare it out just by putting the tool back in there. Give yourself a finished edge. If you want to thin the edge, you can just put 2 fingers right opposite there like that and just round and thin your edge a little bit so it's a little nicer for drinking out of. Put the sponge in, get the water out. Roll it over. Left a little bit of clay there, so go catch it. And take a look to see what you got. You can trim all sorts of stuff into this, so you can actually add patterns and trim and stuff. But one of the most easy things is a quick decoration. It doesn't take you hardly any time at all. Is just to do this. And then I like to put like a line at the bottom where I did it. And you can even have another one at the top there if you want to make it. You're defining the edge, but it gives you a little bit of a decoration that the glaze will catch. Put some water on. And cut her off again. Now we just had some people come in the gallery upstairs. Alright, so now I'm going to make one that sort of has a small base and opens up a little bit, which could be considered more of a little tea bowl than a drinking glass. we're talking identical work for preparing it for its final shape, centering, pulling a wall. Just giving yourself a little bit of a cylinder to start with, counting your revolutions so you're always up higher for that sweet wet spot. I'm going to round off the rim a little bit right at this point on this one. And then here's a trick. Get it nice and wet again. You can use the wooden rib to press in and make your base narrower. Get the clay off, you can turn it around to get that tall foot. You just created basically a really tall foot that we can trim a little bit and carve into later on. We've got some plenty of water on this, and then I'm going to take the rib and set an angle and take the ball on the top out by pressing against that rib, pulling my finger up 1 revolution each time to stay on the sweet spot. And then now I'm pushing with the rib and releasing with the inside finger a little bit because we're getting close to the top. And I'm just going to fine tune the rim. So what did we do? We left almost a perfect curve, so I've got to go back and just push a little bit more to kind of fine tune the belly now. And that's a nice little drinking glass which you can hold by the thick bottom. You can carve ribs into that, whatever you want to do, but it's a nice base to hold on to when you hold. It's like a mini wine glass really. And then roll that over again just to give yourself a finished edge at the top. I don't need to go in there again there. I've got a little bit of water at the bottom, but I'm going to put a bit more on there. And then spin slowly, let it release, and then just push straight away. Don't let it hang around because it will actually re-stick very quickly. Take it off, and we have a nice little shape. Okay, here's another shape very similar to the last one, with a nice big foot that we can play with, and I'm going to do some stuff that might be a little aggressive if you have not seen it before, so it might scare you a little bit the first time you try this, but you basically let the wheel go around really slow, and you're just gonna create those little dents. And the piece may go out of shape at the top, but if you just run your finger like that, it'll go completely back into a circle. So there's a nice little trick that I always think looks really attractive, and it's easy to do. Okay, I know I was going to make drinking glasses, but I looked at these and I thought, wow, this would make a really cute grouping of coffee mugs too. So we could leave these just as is and just trim them, and we've got drinking glasses. But I'm going to make a bunch of mugs with these as well. So I know I've shown this before, but the way I put handles on is different to most people. I've come up with a fairly quick method where I put the handles on when the clay is very soft, but stiff enough so it doesn't deform unless you actually try to deform it. So there is a sweet spot in clay where it can have things attached to it and be firm enough so it doesn't get bent and distorted, but the clay will actually adhere. So it's when the clay is that soft, but just stiffened up a little bit. And the way I do it is with these handles that have just been pulled like less than an hour ago. I sort of rub them up and down, side to side, up and down, side to side, with my finger right opposite on the inside. Let me see it a little easier. So fingers pressured up right opposite, and I just move it up and down, side to side, until it won't move anymore, and then we know it's stuck. And then I bend it. Actually, these handles stiffened up a bit more than I was hoping. But anyway, I went out and mowed the grass because it's going to rain tonight. It's nice when you're self-employed, you can just, sequence your jobs that you need to do for the right moment, that they're ready. And these were so soft when I went out, and now they're just about right. It only took an hour to get them like this, but it's so humid. It's like 95% humidity today. And that's a handle, and I'm going to do that all the way around. Those ones were pretty stiff, so let's go to the other side, and I'll see whether I can get these a bit softer. So basically, up and down, side to side, up and down, side to side, and so it won't move anymore. The finger on the inside is pressuring, so you know it's sticking, and then you bend it to the shape of the handle that you want. So you can get in 2, 3 fingers, hopefully more than one. I find mugs that have one finger in just put too much pressure on one finger to hold a mug full of liquid. So I always like to get 3 fingers in mine, but 2 minimum. And then you stick the little piece of clay to guarantee your handle's got a nice solid join at the bottom. It's thick up there, but it's thinner down here, so I fold it up and I stick a bit of clay in there. And that's how I do it. So I'm just gonna do these all the way around. Now the next step when I'm doing handles like this, they've all been attached, the little pieces in there, is I stick a paintbrush right behind. If I could reach with my middle finger, I would use the middle finger down there, but it's a bit too tight. So, and then just press that in. Smudge it left, smooth it right. I hope you got that. Okay, press it in, smooth it left, and then smooth it right. Left, right, left brain, right brain. Same again. So brush is right opposite where I put the pressure, so we know it sticks. And then left, right. Same again. Push down, left, right. So you really get a good join this way because the brush is right opposite, pushing back with a lot of pressure, and you're just using your thumb to smudge the clay into the actual, smudge the handle clay into the mug. So you try to do this when the clay is really pretty soft in the handle. So if it's stiff and it's harder than the mug itself, you can push it and it will kind of sink into the soft mug. So you want to make sure that the clay is soft and it doesn't just push through the wall of the soft mug. And that's it. And then I use a little paintbrush. This is my favorite handle paintbrush that I use for putting handles on, is I just use it as a modeling tool. And then push the clay down into the little gaps. Keep it wet a little bit, so I dip it in water, and then do that. And my subscribers have been with me a long time. I've seen handle videos in the past, but I guess it's worth a reminder. Because this is a good way of putting handles on, because you don't have to handle the mug. You can do it when the clay is really soft, so you don't have to score and scratch. And I've never used porcelain, except for when I was really young. So I'm not sure if this would work for porcelain or not. But this clay is basically a porcelain style clay. It's very smooth. It doesn't fire translucent, but it's really smooth, buttery. Okay, so the handles are on, all attached, top and bottom. So what next thing I'll do is I'll just push back where the handle joined at the bottom with the paintbrush, and just make sure that it's not pushed in at all. Sometimes, as I said, the handle is a little stiffer sometimes than the actual clay, so you might get an area on the inside where the clay is pushed in. So I just sort of brush the handle from the inside of the pot where it's attached. Brushing the join area basically. And then you can feel, because you'll feel like a little bump if it's got a hollow bit in the inside. And then using your nice handle brushing tool, you simply smooth them out as much as you want. I used to leave the thumb smudges of the clay. I don't anymore, I smooth them out, but at one time I used to leave 2 little marks where the thumb had smudged the clay. It actually wasn't unattractive. And the last thing, of course, is to get a little bit of clay and stick your little ball on there, whatever you do with yours. I use a spiral on mine to identify my pieces, so it'd be nice if people came up with something if they do this with their own little mark. One of my friends uses a little tree, tiny little tree shape. Another person has the shape of an acorn, if I remember right. And you can go with it. These are pretty small balls, but there's nothing to stop you putting a pretty large one on. And then the really nice trick about mugs, these are small to get something in, but you can actually put a yogurt carton in to reform that circle at the top. Because you know that as all the handling that you're doing will actually distort it a little bit. So doing that, and then putting a little cup in there or something round will reform that round perfectly. I just found a little styrofoam cup, so what I'm talking about is you put it inside like that and you just kind of reform your circle. Okay, these guys are the ones that I was throwing to make as glasses. And when you're trimming, if you just wet the rim a little bit like that, you can even just kind of wet your wheel a little bit. You can actually center it by just placing it down on the wheel head. And you have rings on the wheel head that show you if it's centered. And my eye just gets this pretty quickly, so I don't have to mess around a little bit. But if you want to be really, if you're a little insecure about this, you just get, because I was when I was young, some bits of clay, and you don't press against the pot, you press against the wheel, and a bit squeezes against the pot so that you don't crack the rim. Because if you press against the pot and it's a bit dry, you crack the rim. And then you can put a bit of clay down just to kind of give it that little extra support. And see, centered. So so those rings actually do a really good job for you. And then just choose your favorite trimming tool and you just trim. If the pieces are really soft, I like the loop tools like this. If the pieces are dry, I can often get a better result by using a flat, hard edge, sharp trimming tool. Let me see if I've got one right here. And these ones are made by Bill Wright, and they work really good on dry clay. This is a bit soft for it because it's actually, I'll shoot it down so you can see. It pulls it off, but when it's dry, it really comes off much better. So these for dry tool pots, and loop tools for pots that are a bit softer. And you can make a double rim by just digging your tool in just down a little bit lower than the first one, which was what we threw on the pot there. So that was the original one we threw with the pot, and this is the one I just added with the trimming tool. And if you want to do quick decoration, there's lots of ways of doing it, but if you use a chattering tool from Bill Wright, artisanpotterytools.com, you can get a really fast textured look. And of course, when you've done that, you could even do other things to emphasize it again by put it in another ring, like a double ring if you wanted to there. So you've got that up there and then you echo it down there and it looks nice. But there you go. Oh, there's a boat outside sounding an alarm by the sound of it. Because a boat just left. Oh, I wonder what's going on. You don't hear that. That's the first time I've heard it, but I know that when they sound an alarm in the ocean, that generally means something bad's happening. Maybe they're just testing it. So remove the little bit of clay, and if you were really good, you didn't dent the circle, because that's what I'm saying. If you press with the clay, it will push the wall of the pot in at the top. But you can see that's a very quick, nice little decoration on the bottom there. And it takes a little getting used to using the tools, but they're pretty easy. and you can really get a lot of different textures. And if you wanted to, you could do stuff up in the top part if you wanted as well. So now I am going to trim all of these pieces, and the ones with the handles will be a little bit later today, I think. But just place them back in there, and it probably is going to be in center. Nope, because that's a bit smaller maybe. There you go, perfect again. So like I said, you put it down next to the pot rather than against it, and then by pressing to the wheel, the clay pushes slightly into the pot, and then you can actually get a good sort of contact without in danger of cracking the rim. And of course, when you're trimming, it's a good idea to put your finger on the top, so that you've got a little pressure downwards. You're not really pushing pressure on these upwards anyway with the trimming tool, but I do know from experience it's nice because occasionally they might pop loose. And if you want that double rim again, you just go down a little further, put your tool in and roll back over that lump, and you end up with a double rim. And then on the top here, you've got to be a little careful. So I put my thumb on the trimming tool, and then I pull the trimming tool out and leave my thumb in the center. So I have that kind of hollow area just in the center there. And let's see if I can find a different trimming tool here. I've got so many of these, not trimming, but these texturing tools. This is a curved edge one. So that's a nice, like, we used to call that planishing on copper when we used to do that with a hammer in metalwork at Penistone Grammar School when I was a kid. So so that's a nice decorative technique. If it's the glaze is applied thin, that will show up. It's a very shallow texture, so basically you'd have to make sure the glaze is thin, and then we can, I suppose I could finish off with the other tool and just have a what I call my cuneiform. There we go. And I like to put that double line in there anyway, to say it echoes that top thing. Pull two of them away. And that's the result. It's a nice, fairly simple decorative technique. Now this device is called a Giffin grip, and Bailey Pottery produces a similar version of it. And I've never used the Bailey one, but I assume it's the same principle. You simply push it around like that, and the top layer disc spins, and the bottom one is stationary. And so this one tightens up because it's on a spiral, that the track kind of thing, and this just tightens up and holds it in center perfectly every time. So once you've got yourself a pottery where you're actually doing production pottery, and you have to make things a little faster because you're on a tight schedule, this Giffin grip is well worth getting. Just as a bonus in this video, because I was doing some chattering on those little glasses, I've been trimming a dozen bowls here, and I've got these two tools I'll show you. One's a square edge, because I think these are really good ones to buy from Bill Wright. It's got a square edge and then a profile on the side as well, and then this one is the opposite. It's got a square edge and then a profile on the other side. So they make really good tools for chattering down And you can buy one of these, or you can buy the two of them. I personally, if you were just going to buy one, would buy this one with that profile, because I find this one's a little hard because the foot gets in the way of that, so you'd have to start a lot lower down. But this one's great, and so let me just show you. I put it in. And then I go a bit lower down. And then you can take the side edge, and at an angle, I like to do it at an angle to get a different look. And then sort of roll it down so you're catching the middle of the side wall of the tool, and then you keep rolling it, you'll catch the edge at the bottom end of the tool, and then you just sort of stop. And then I put a couple of lines in. You don't have to do this. I just like the look of the lines. Control freak, I bet. There you go. I like to confine them. And now I rub my finger just over like that. And sometimes you can catch any little bits by just rolling gently with the trimming tool. And that is what you get, which I think is really nice. I'm not sure you can see the angled one. There you go, that makes it look a bit better. Okay, so even though I said I was doing glasses, most of these became cups because I just got into putting handles on, and there were some interesting shapes that I thought would make nice experimental cups. I think I did like 32 glasses, and about 8 of them stayed as glasses. So things change. It's nice. Go with the flow. Anyway, so trimming, easy. This is a small Kemper tool for trimming, R2. I love this tool. Makes a nice trimming tool. It really trims well on softer clays. It's not really meant for the dry clay. That's all you have to do, because we made such a big foot. And it's you can put a double ring in there if you want. Why not? So I could do some fluting on these at this point if I wanted to, but I think they're very sweet just the way they are. Got a nice double ring on the bottom. And it's so light because these were made out of like 1/3 of a pound of clay. So I'm just gonna put you on stop motion to do the rest of these.